Hello.
Hello, mate.
I realised that my introductions are pretty uncool. I kind of get quite nervous when I start these things, so I end up saying hello, 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 and doing all these really weird, stupid voices that makes me sound about 12. So I realised that in doing this, I've just done exactly the same thing when trying to be even, some semblance of cool. So that's basically ruined that. Hello, everybody. I've got another fantastic person that I've met at some point in my life. This guy recently, this year, actually last year, and this is Daniel Fonseca-Shaw, who I had the pleasure of meeting earlier in the, as I say, last summer. And just a really quick bit before we get into it with Dan. This project, Stories of Our Lives, is you probably, if you've watched any of them before, it's starting to grow now. It's becoming something I'm fascinated by. It's a project that is literally just me talking to people about the stories of who they are. It dawned on me after a lot of years studying literature, but also working on my own issues and my own attempt to be brilliant, but also who I am, that we're all telling stories. And, some of those stories we take really, really seriously and they're brilliant. And some of those stories we take really, really seriously and they hinder us and they limit us because they might be something we used to do in the past. What's fascinating as the project develops is that underneath the noise, what I call the noise of maybe, culture, we're all there just trying to tell our stories, and it just fascinates me the more I do it. So let's get into it. Dan, hello, mate.
Hello, dude. You all right?
You're right.
I'm good. I've been nervous, but now I'm talking to you, I'm fine. Because
it's so funny, isn't it? The minute you get into it, it's kind of like it's okay. But yeah, in the lead up to it, I'm like, oh my god, what have I done? I've set this project up and I have no idea what I'm doing. So let me throw this one at you, Dan.
Go on then.
I have made quite a substantial list because I'm a terrible over planner, and what happens is most of my planning comes to absolutely nothing, and then spontaneous things happen which tend to be brilliant. But in my overplaying, I made a list, and your name was quite at the top of that list. That's awful English, considering I've got a master's degree in English. That's terrible. Your name was kind of like in the one of the first names I wrote down, because I knew that I wanted to talk to you at some point. Can you speak to that? What does that make you think? Do you recognise that in yourself, that you're someone that's got something to say?
I know I'm too busy talking most of the time. Too busy trying to work out what's going on and asking really deep questions of people, or searching for a bit more meaning than the monotony of our day-to-day life. The in and out, the up and down. So yeah, and that's got me in trouble in the past. Is being that like deep Dan, as they say. But I've just always been fascinated in learning more about why we are, what we are, who we are, why we think the way we do. And so yeah, I'm constantly getting myself in deep conversations. So meeting you was just a perfect opportunity. I was someone who wants to actually parlay, who wants to converse, who's actually got some vocabulary and some ideas at the same time. And a lot of people aren't really like that. So a lot of people kind of just want to brush over the surface of life and not take it too seriously, or not allow themselves to get embroiled in deep, heartfelt, emotional and meaningful exchanges with people.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm, for whatever reason, I don't know, I'm the opposite.
Can we just put a little bit of context on the way we met, because it was quite funny. We were in amongst a lot of people and a lot of conversations going on, and I specifically remember it, because it's very difficult when there's a lot of noise going on, and this is partly what this project is about, to see beneath the surface of that noise. And we started, I don't know if you remember it, but a conversation started about technology.
Oh, yeah.
and it was almost like we kind of like people were saying different things. We you said something, and I was just like, oh my god, he's really resonating on the same page that I am. I recognise that. And then I said something, and you were like, that's it. And we had this kind of little
what did I say?
connection.
Do you remember that? Because I can't.
It was something about that. We were both. Whilst I think we're not. I don't get the impression you're a Luddite in any sense, but we both are concerned about the nature of relationships in the future. I think with the advent of technology that takes you out, that can really take you out of the present moment and get you sat behind a screen. We were wondering about the implications of that in the future, and I think that was really funny. We kind of connected over that. And after that.
If you're like me, that's something I think about a lot. We're in really interesting times when it comes to our interpersonal kind of relationships. And it's never been like this, and it's accelerating at an enormous rate. The way we do things, and I guess we see it more through our children,
right?
Because the way they access their friends and information, which is incredibly different to the way we grew up. I mean, technology, although the home comforts and things changed throughout the decades, but real technological advances didn't really start happening until to me, the 90s, when people had computers in their homes and were on the web. I mean, we all remember sitting there waiting for dial-up at a friend's house, the posh fancy computer, just to look at shopping channels or websites or chat rooms, and that kind of blew it wide open, right? That not only access to information, but the way we interact, a whole new level. And whenever anyone mentions anything like that, I'm all over it, because I spend a lot of time thinking about that.
Yeah, I think on that day, I think I mentioned, I can't actually remember, but I think I mentioned a fantastic, Aldous Huxley wrote Brave New World, and he reviewed it 25 years after he wrote it in 1955. He wrote a book, Brave New World Revisited, and it's a series of essays kind of assessing the book and, where it sits kind of culturally. There's it's all really good. Chapter 7, I think it is propaganda in a democratic society. I genuinely think everybody should be primed to read this chapter, because Huxley says in the future, he kind of outlines propaganda, and he says propaganda's, in the past historically been negative or positive spins on things. In the future, he thought most propaganda wouldn't need to be that. It would just be a mass of information that would distract people from being politically active or anything like that. And I just always think about that chapter and like, wow. I read that in the 90s, and it's like every year it gets more and more relevant.
Well, there's one key word in there, is the distraction. I mean, that's the negative side. That's the side I'm very aware of, even myself, and see with others, this distraction that it's stopping us from kind of accessing this kind of the spiritual humanity-ness. We end up living this digital false ideology and lifestyle, and we forget our ability to be spiritual and connected with nature and each other.
Exactly.
And that's why that word distraction always gets me, because I think we're missing the point somewhere along the line.
Something's out of kilter, isn't it? It's like the technology's great, but you kind of just want to be you want people to be able to look each other in the eye and say whatever they need to say in the moment. You know what I mean? It's like
although the positive side of that is it's really fast moving. It's evolving very quickly, and there's many great things on the opposite side of the scale, where people have access to information that will raise their awareness and then and their perceptions and intelligence, hopefully, so that's a great thing. But obviously we're sort of weighing up these two great big huge elements of what it is to be human in the modern age,
right? Exactly.
And the effect it has on us. yeah, hugely fascinating, that
I
subject.
think that's brilliant. Let's take it. Look, I want to do this because I think it's really cool to get context. You know, I mean, you're obviously really bright. I mean, you know, you talk beautifully about subjects. We've talked about certain things.
It's not obvious, man.
It's obvious to me.
Yeah.
So where does it start for you? I'm going to ask you to kind of see if you can pin yourself down a little bit later, but that's a bit of fun later on. Oh, I've forgotten something. Every time I forget it. Listen, I've got a thing that I do where I ask people at the start of the talk to think of a song. I want you to tell me a story at the end of the conversation about a song that has some meaning for you.
Okay.
Yeah, don't talk about it now. What fascinates me is that
I'm going to go with what, bam, straight in.
Yeah, that's the fascinating thing. I initially thought that what happened was, you know, in the back of your mind, we were, you know, in the back of our minds, we work this out as we're going along. But what I think most people seem to do is the very first thing that comes in their head, they go with that. And that's really funny. Anyway, don't say any more about it. I'll ask you at the end. Okay, so what's really interesting is to think about, you know, like here you are and you articulately, you know, talk about these things. And you've obviously got a handle on a lot of the social mores of the time. Where does it start for you as a kid? Oh, I've knocked myself out of balance.
Yeah, you
know, what was childhood like for you?
Very easy. I'm thoroughly middle class, middle of the road, kind of easy, uneventful, and, you know, safe upbringing. But you know what? There must be something inside me because I had a problem with alcohol when I was a teenager. You know, everyone drinks when they're a kid and mucks up, but I really kind of got into the whole idea of it, the whole ethos of it. And it's funny because knowing this is coming up, I've been thinking a lot about this kind of stuff, and it's naturally bled into some of the conversations I've had with people.
Wow, interesting.
I think deep down, I just want to get an A star. So I want to do pretty well. I want to give a good account of myself and really get hold of this subject. You know, I've watched a lot of the other ones you've done, and it's very, you know, interesting and wonderful how open people have been. But anyway, I digress. Where it came from for me, and it's a very specific moment. I used to drink a lot of whiskey, even as a 15-year-old, and I remember one very specific moment where I was blind drunk, sitting in my underwear in my parents' house in my bedroom, and I had this little notebook. You know those notebooks you have at school with a little rectangle of black name form. I had a tiny little one of those, and I was just like compulsively scribbling down poetry.
Wow. Okay.
And when I've looked back at those sorts of things and I've read them, I mean, they're incredibly naive and simple, and, you know, but what I got from it was someone who was looking for a way out of that mundaneness. I don't want to call it mundane because my parents are lovely and, as I say, very safe, happy childhood. But I'd got really into playing the guitar and all that, and learning about all that kind of music, and I was fascinated with rock gods when I was very young, thanks to the wonderful documentary library that we have here in the UK. It's amazing. We've had some great TV. It's brilliant. It's good for something. So I learned a lot about that sort of thing. So I was finding a way out. And I jumped from that to, you know, lots of misadventure and lots of cool things, and, you know, leaving home when I was 18 just because I could. And I remember another very specific moment when I was out of my mind, telling a friend that I was doing it on purpose.
Wow.
I am trying to rewire this, mess it up enough so it starts to become more wild, interesting, and crazy. You know, and kind of can tap into this ether, this vibe that goes on with the people that I idolize. You know, they're obviously on a completely new plane. And whether I was on that already because I started searching for that kind of intuitively and without any forethought, or it wasn't a considered plan, right? I must fuck myself up so I can, you know, so this all becomes more of a dream state and creativity becomes easier. No, it was a natural natural leaning towards looking at the world through the other side of the glass.
Yeah, that's so fascinating though. It's like, I love the way you said that though. It's almost like it wasn't drama, because a lot of people do stuff for drama because they they want attention. It wasn't drama. It was actually, I love the way you said, like, I need to mess this up a bit. It's like, because but that's really interesting if you think about it. You had quite an ordered, I don't know, but I'm guessing you had quite an ordered childhood. Lot of things, and you know what? The times this has come up in, go on, carry on.
This I'm grateful for, because I see the mess that some people from their crazy wild childhoods, and that's where they get their creativity from. But mine's a reaction. Mine's reactionary to be like that.
What about music? Is music still a part of your life?
Huge, yeah. I'm addicted to playing the guitar. Absolutely.
That's brilliant.
And of the 4 deepest loves of my life, one of them is the guitar. It's sad and weird, but I play one of my guitars and I just, God, I love this thing. It sounds amazing. Beautiful.
Yeah. Can you describe that state when you get in there and you take yourself off and you're playing? What's that? How would you describe that? If I really pressed you and said, like,
I'm not there.
Talk to me in words. Can you talk to me in words?
I'm literally not there. I remember when I first started to try and write songs, your imagination would go wild, and you'd be. I'd think a lot about the possibility of performing those songs to people, and it'd be a good positive kind of distraction. It would just be me and the guitar and the sound and the vibration, and it becomes very sensory then. And you kind of lock into this. A famous bass player from a band I really like called it the golden moment, where you hit this stream, this sea of gold, where it's just like a constant flow. It's just the energy between you, the instrument, and the sound, and the harmonics and the resonance of it. That it just, you're not there. You're literally a conduit. That's because I've done some sessions recently with a friend that I've been playing with since I was a teenager, and we've always jammed together as guitarists. And he's taught himself to play the drums, and so he just goes wild on the drums, and I just go wild on the guitar. And we recorded a few of these sessions, and the spontaneity and the wildness of it, I mean, pure wildness of both of us, and watching our faces when we're interacting and playing, it's like, and I said to him, we've written an EP, actually, in 2 sessions, worth of music, not recording, and properly. And I said, this comes from nowhere or another place, another where that I don't know about. This is not. How can I just pick up a guitar and start riffing, and he starts drumming, and we go on and play for 4 minutes, and it changes, it morphs, it goes into, we've written a song without even thinking about it.
Where's it coming from?
Where does it come from? Am I a conduit, or am I, deep in there, the subconscious has got a master plan that it doesn't even bother. That dude that walks around during the day, he's got his eyes closed, let me take over. Daniel, just hold the guitar and I'm in control. Really cool.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is so cool. You know what? It's really reminds me of that. It's funny because, say that again.
That's the creative process for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. I think that's right. What it reminds me of, though, is also, it's like, like Eastern philosophy, Buddhism and all that, talking about no self. Get into, and you hear sportsmen and women at the high level. I mean, and anyone really, when you're really focused, talking about flow state as well. When you get into that flow state, and you literally lose your identity, your social identity.
Totally. You kind of go into tunnel vision. You go into an accelerated perception of the time around you, where everything becomes kind of in slow motion. I've read about one of my favourite sportsmen of the last decade or 2 decades, a motorcycle rider. So they're hyper sense of attention and awareness, and he says you go into a zone. You're just reacting on instinct. And my dad used to ride police bikes, and he said, when you're going that fast and the world around you is moving away from you so quickly, your brain slows down and you start to just react naturally.
Wow.
Yeah, that's very true. And I guess I get a sense of that, not without all the speed and danger, but playing the guitar. Yeah.
You know what? I mean, I love that. I just love that. I'm gonna shift it on, because part of this project is to you know, when I talk to people, it's you know, within whatever we do, 40 minutes or whatever it is, trying to get a sense of who you are. And I suppose the point of that, in a way, is just to kind of delight in the question. Not that we're going to find an answer, because it's kind of bullshit, really. But
no,
it's just
there is an answer. I think we're chasing a flyaway balloon, you know.
Exactly.
And we're never going to get to the answer, but it's the evolution, it's the journey, it's the constantly growing and looking towards the horizon that's part of the journey, right?
I love it. But we are, you know, in some kind of weird way that we do that seems completely normal. We whatever that, you know, you were just talking about that kind of no self place that is full of spontaneity and creativity. We somehow package that down into a functioning identity that we walk around with, which is really quite funny, I think. But let's talk about that for a minute. Fonseca-Shaw, can you talk about, like, who's Daniel Fonseca-Shaw? Where does the Fonseca-Shaw go? You know, like specifically
my wife's Portuguese name that we've double-barreled.
You've double-barreled it. Got it.
Yes, it's not part of my bloodline. I'm plainly English, British, Northern European. She's the one with all the colour and heritage.
Right.
Where does he come from? Did you say?
Yeah. No, well, I was wondering about the name, and you've answered that. But I suppose we, you know, within. So you were Daniel Shaw, I guess, were you?
Yeah.
So Daniel Shaw. What does Daniel Shaw represent to you, you know, when you walk around? That is, it, you know, Daniel Shaw represents you. It's your name and everything, but you're so much more than that, aren't you? And we're all so much more than just our name. But can you talk about
the label? I don't consider. It's more of like this whole project of yours. It's the story. It's what people think of you. It's the way you see, the way you come across. It's how you fit in that area of that geographical area and social environment that you're in. What is he? Who is he? Someone's trying really hard to keep it together and make it enjoyable and feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carry on. No, keep going.
He's someone who's searching, I think, constantly for some kind of magical meaning out of it all, some deeper understanding or connection with whatever is around at the time.
I love that. Wow. And is the meaning? Do you think that there is a meaning? Do you think it's there, that magical meaning?
Probably not a prescribed one in that sense. It's more of an emotional or spiritual kind of connectivity and understanding that comes about inside a human in a kind of peace and knowing and kind of tranquility that you get from that. So magical meaning, no, I would say it's probably a feeling about contentedness, I think is a word. I don't know if I want to use the word contentedness, just, you know. But then that idea, that theory changes. Right. Ever evolving landscape, you know. It's not exactly the same.
That's so good. Carry on.
To answer the question fully, I mean, you know, like which layer are we talking about? Which level of my persona is in control at that one moment? You know,
right.
Who's steering the ship, and what am I doing? Because we're different things to different people at all times. If we're talking about the story, who is he? What does he mean? What's the story of this? I mean, it's best reflected, I guess, in those that are closest to you and know the most. And that's what I got into thinking about when you asked me to do this and when I heard you were doing it, is what does my story mean? And actually, does it mean more to someone else than it means to me? Because I'm going to be a memory.
That's so
I'm,
good.
I'm going to be a memory one day. You know, I'm going to be summed up in a short paragraph by one of my children or grandchildren.
Oh my God.
Oh, Daniel, oh, my dad, or oh, grand Uncle Dan, he was boom, 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 boom. And that's me done. Like, there you go. That's your perception of me in a nutshell. Weird, isn't it?
Oh my God.
I'm not thinking about that. I think maybe my story is more important to my children. Perhaps it's more important the story I give them, which will come back round to me, and it will make me create a better story for myself and look out for myself a bit more and put myself forward to the things I want to do and make myself happy, you know.
I love that. Oh my God, that's mind blowing. I think it's just that fact that, which I think, you know, when we get caught up in the stuff of our lives and all that, just to think that, you know, just the thought that you don't really control your own story. You're a player.
Yeah, I think some people do. Some people really go to great pains to
right.
a particular story, don't they?
Definitely.
Some of us don't have our game on, or they don't realise their game needs to be on point until they get a lot older. And then they go, "Oh my God! All that time I wasted. I could have been evolved. I could have been woke, as they say, when I was 20." You know, that's why I'm not a rock star, because I was
right.
searching, like, what's going on? Who am I? What am I? Why? Oh, I've got some bills to pay, so let's just deal with that for a minute. And
exactly. I'm going to throw some questions at you, Dan, now as we kind of move on to the second bit. Dan, what are we doing here?
You and I right now. We're learning about each other.
Cool.
I think. Sharing. Connecting.
Cool. Good. I love
bonding.
It. That's good. Would you say that you had a personal philosophy? And if you wouldn't mind, could you give us an outline of it?
Like Dan's manifesto. I don't think I've settled on one yet.
That's interesting. Okay.
I don't think I've settled on one yet. Do more. Do more. Experience, make it happen. Realise the beauty and wonder that could be life. You know, because we get many examples of people doing that, and because we're so bombarded on social media with everyone else's story, that we forget that we're supposed to be doing ours. So I think that is becoming part of my mantra, is just get on with tapping into what makes me tick. You know, I mean, already in this conversation, someone listening to this conversation could pretty much work out what I should be doing and what triggers me and where my life has gone and why it's gone that way. And it's like, why are you sitting there at 40 still working this shit out? You should have done that a long time ago. So I think I'm getting a bit frustrated with myself for not worked it out a lot sooner.
Wow. Okay.
And it becomes one of my aims in my life to have teenage boys that are so much further down the path than I was by their age.
Wow.
That's one of my main objectives in life.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
13 and 4.
Wow. Okay.
Massive gap. So I've got one to test out on. And another one up to that age. So I've worked it all out, boys. It's going this way. But it's actually really hard to do that, though, because then you realise, God, there's such individuals, you know, like the young one is a beast of a character. I mean, he's got more character and more personal direction and opinion than I did till I was 18. There's so much more power in his desire and the way he does his day.
Yeah. If this is just fun, But if I had to pin you down and say, give me some phrases, if I really want to know who you are, if you had a limited space to tell me, and to really get you, what would you say in a few words or a couple of phrases? If I really want to know who Daniel Shaw or Daniel Fonseca-Shaw is, what would you say?
That's a really hard one. He's a psychonaut. That's
good. That's good, right there.
He's meta, baby. Just like a crazy scientist looking for some kind of reason, some kind of meaning. I don't know. We rarely turn the spotlight on ourselves for definitive answers. We're constantly kind of chewing over this internal monologue about and reassessing and constantly trying to work out what things mean. You know, so I don't think you could. If you pin me down, I just go, no, Frank. It's too soon. I've not worked it out yet, mate.
That's brilliant.
Give me more time. Give me an extension on that.
Right, I've got a few different questions. I've been working on adapting this a little bit more. So I want you to fill in the gaps, okay, or kind of finish this off for me, all right?
Mm-hmm.
In the gap between knowing and unknowing is
experience.
Oh, that's good. That is good.
One assumes.
Love it. Pressure comes from.
The right answer is within. We waste a lot of time thinking it comes from somewhere else, but it comes from within.
Oh my God, you are so out there. That's so brilliant. That's fascinating. And you got there so quickly as well. Success is
desirable. Success is never achieved. It doesn't matter what you've got. You know, you could be, what's his name, Kanye West, and you could still go, damn, I wish I had or did this. Like, wait, seriously? So, yeah.
In the end, it all comes down to
love. Hello.
I love it.
That's love on every level, every platitude, every angle, every direction you look, feel, and experience. It's love for you. It's love for me. It's love for the cat. It's love for the kids. Love for the wife. Love for that other guy. Love for that other guy in the car that's acting a bit stupid and going. Yeah, love that you're having a worse day than me. In the end, it does go down to love, because without that, you know, when that's on the rocks or if that's questioned, that's when we get opened up, right?
It's really funny, you know. Some things have come out of the talk, the interviews that we've done and the conversations. Is that when you haven't done it, but a lot of people, when they get into saying that kind of thing, they start to buffer by saying this is going to sound fluffy, or this is going to sound corny, or this is going to sound whatever it is. And it's really interesting that we've created that culture where we get close to saying what you've said so openly and honestly, which I love. But a lot of people feel like they have to qualify it. They have to kind of soften it, or, you know.
But you remember what I said at the beginning about not everyone looks at themselves or the world around them with any great depth. Some people kind of shy away from owning up to the fact that they've got pretty deep thoughts, feelings, and emotions, and you know, laugh it off and go, "Oh, let's just have another beer instead," you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, my relationship with that kind of mentality ended a long time ago. I just wanted to know.
How do you feel about? I usually ask people, like I've started to ask people about this. I'm really fascinated in words that, you know, we don't use, that become unfashionable. So, can you? If I say duty,
yeah.
Do you have any relationship with the word duty? Do you feel that in your life at all?
I think you get a certain pressure from thinking about that word, because, you know, I'm a family man, and you feel like there's some duty is probably a bit of a strong word to put on your kind of innate urge to do right by those people that you've created and that you've sworn your life to.
Right. That's interesting.
I said duty is a bit of a strong word, isn't it? Because it sounds very military, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah. It's funny how, but we used to kind of organise our work. That was part of life, isn't it? That idea of duty, and now we just don't really use that word anymore, which I find fascinating.
There's people don't really have to commit to much these days, do they? It's so easy to get divorced. It's so easy to quit a job. You know, people have got this overinflated kind of sense of self-worth where work or relationships are not as important as whatever the hell it is they want to do. You know, there's this lack of sharing their actions in their life and what comes out of them with other people. You know, that's part of the distraction. It's part of the division that the society seems to be cultivating.
What are you grateful for, Dan?
What am I grateful for? Difficult.
What are you thankful for?
Just the continued well-being of those people that inspire me and keep me going.
Love it.
Yeah,
love it.
Pretty thankful for my good wife Helga, because she keeps my brain This conversation could be very different if I'd never met her.
Wow,
you know?
That's just beautiful. I mean, that's a powerful statement, isn't it, right there? And it all comes down. That's the funny thing about it, is that, you know, underneath the noise of all the stuff that we use to separate ourselves and all that, it comes down to one or two things a lot of the time. Who's close to you, love, you know.
Exactly what kind of, that's what I meant by that,
Listen, I've got, as we wrap it up, I've got a, you might have heard me say this before and you might have prepared, but I have got my time machine and it is still working. And I do want to lend it to you, but you've only got a minute. And I'm going to send you back to see young Daniel Shaw before you ever knew of a lady called Helga Fonseca. And what are you going to say to you're any age, but what are you going to say to young Daniel, Dan?
There's an 8-year-old in a tiny little box bedroom in Maidstone, and he's playing the guitar and he's screaming his lungs out, and he's having the time of his life. He can't play for shit, he can't sing for shit, but having the time of his life. And just before he turns around and sees through the crack of the door, he sees his dad and his sister giggling and going, "Look at him, he's making a real tit out of himself." I'm going to distract him so he never sees that moment.
Oh my God, I love that. That's my favourite one of all time. That's so brilliant. Oh, that's so beautiful. You know what?
Draw him in through the connectivity of the universe and say, no, just keep your eyes on that guitar.
I love that. In my mind, I've worked out that somehow, because we're having this conversation and something to do with Schrodinger's cat, that's actually happened.
Oh my God, I can't wait to go and try and perform and not be nervous and let it all out. We're going to find out tonight. I'm going to go and plug my guitar in somewhere and get wild.
Okay, that's so brilliant. Listen, thank you so much. I've got one last thing to ask of you, mate. Tell me a story about the song.
Jimi Hendrix song, massive influence on me. Not that I can play like him, but probably the first time a Jimi Hendrix song made me cry.
Wow.
Which was quite a new emotion. I was holding my first son, so it's about 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
And I put it on, I was at my parents' house, I put it on pretty loud. And I just realised how amazing it was, what an effect that had. And it it came through me. And just, you know, when you get choked to tears through happiness. And it was Are You Experienced?
That's the song.
Yeah, Are You Experienced by Jimi Hendrix. Spotify, Frank.
I will link it. I will link it when we put this interview up. I will link it there so everybody can have a listen to it. Dan, thank you so much, mate. It's just such a delight. It's such a delight to talk to you, and thank you for giving me your time.
My pleasure entirely.
It's been brilliant, mate. You've been absolutely brilliant. Oh,
Okay.
I hope to see you at some point. Maybe we can all hook up at some point in the future. That's probably not going to happen because these things are said and not happen, but it would be good for us all to get together.
I thought there was going to be a story of our lives barbecue at your house, no?
Oh my God, I can see it now. I'm sure, you know what, the more I do, I'm sure that at some point I'll be like, let's get everybody together.
Everyone's done it. Let's all get together and see what comes.
Stories of our lives anonymous. It was like, yes, yeah. I did it. Yeah. I did an interview.
After doing stories of my life kind of just became so. No, it's not going to happen. But the barbecue shed.
This is good. Thank you, mate. Appreciate it.
That's been
all the best. Take it easy, buddy.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye.